Hello, everyone. Welcome to the. I was about to say the old title again. I'm gonna keep doing this. It's been so long since we renamed at this point, and yet I still almost say it on occasion. Anyways, welcome to Midweek Gaming. I'm Nick. Over on the other side is, of course, Justin, providing gameplay and entertainment, and
Yes.
well, a different opinion to mine, which we will get most definitely throughout the show.
Well,
And
I will say it for what it is for the topic. I don't think our opinions are going to be too far apart, but yeah. I feel like
we
the
will see.
topic that we have is somewhat middle groundish.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think we are somewhat middle grounded, but we shall see, right?
Yeah.
The topic today we're going to be talking about is, of course, Destiny. Now, of course, Lightfall comes out tomorrow as of the recording of this video, so come on, what the heck did you think I was going to say? The truth be told, I did think of other things. Like, I was up at 4 in the morning yesterday, don't ask why. And I saw information from some other content creators I follow about YouTube's new management. I'm like, we could talk about that. And I'm like,
No, no,
This
that's not something
will just
you
evolve into a
really want to
slap
do.
fight about YouTube.
Well, that and you don't really want to be doing that on YouTube. Not
Yeah.
unless you want to end up on their bad side.
Well, I mean, what are they gonna do? Demonetize us more than they already have? Oh wait, we're not
Yes.
monetized. But the
Yes.
advantages of not being monetized yet.
It's like
But
there's demonetized and then there's redacted.
how dare you speak ill of YouTube? Banned for racism.
Removal for hate speech.
What's that one thing I just remember from Internet Story where he's going on like the people who were complaining about Fallout 76 back in the day on like the Bethesda boards, and they're just like, what's his joke that he made? It was just like, is Fallout 76 great? Yes, it's great. Banned for racism.
Yes.
Just tried to shut down all discussion, but anyways,
Removed.
removed, deleted by the Vex. But regardless, um, obviously, like what exactly we're going to talk about for Destiny specifically. I mean, we could just sit here and start prattling on about Lightfall and all that stuff, but we already done that in the previous video, and
There's
everyone else has
nothing
already
really
kind of been
much
partaking
new
that.
to really talk about besides the new trailer, and I will say it for what it is. The first cutscene has been already spoiled, so watch yourself out there if you don't want to see it until tomorrow. But like some of the content's already come out, but it's nothing new that we haven't in a way already seen. It's just a more
Mhm.
clear version of what we were seeing.
Yeah. In fairness, in my mind, upon rewatching the trailers like 600 times because I have no life, I have more or less pieced together by the looks of that thing, the trailer that we're constantly shown, or the cutscene that we're constantly shown about the witness in space and everything. Generally speaking, the kind of order I believe it most likely goes in my head, minus the editing and everything, like how it should actually have gone or go. But regardless, now that's already been talked about 1,000 times. We're going to talk about something on a bit more higher level, shall we say? Bungie, the future of Bungie. What exactly, what do we see? What do we see beyond Lightfall? What do we see for Destiny beyond Lightfall? Not from a narrative perspective or anything, well, maybe a little bit, but more from a franchise perspective, right? So, going back to kind of the beginning of all of this, come the end of Lightfall, or not Lightfall, Final Shape, which will be next year, the Light and Darkness saga is over. So, what exactly does that mean in grander context? Well, for those who don't know, this will be Bungie's ninth expansion and thus ninth anniversary by extension. Once, uh, um, I just said it 10 seconds ago. The Alzheimer's is kicking in. And knock on freaking wood. But regardless, Final Shape, once that comes out, that'll be the 10th and final, or as far as we know so far, expansion for Destiny 2 as of right now, and that'll be the end of the 10-year journey. For those who don't know, way back in the day, back in D1, when that was first released, and the whole press release for that was promised, Bungie promised a 10-year journey with the Destiny franchise, and that they would be with it for 10 years regardless of what happens. So, regardless of how it turned out, they were going to try and at least keep this game going for 10 years for the most part. And guess what? Come Lightfall, or come Final Shape, that's the 10 years. We're done. Now,
Yes.
does this mean Destiny will end? Because that's the logical, question you'd probably ask with this. Well, no. I've actually got notes here, kind of like, because I literally thought about this idea right after the video from last week that I thought about, and I just kind of had this flash of, oh, yeah, I guess we'll do this, and I kind of wrote down ideas, so, because I knew by this time next week I would have completely forgotten them. So, you know, will the franchise end is probably the question a lot of people ask, even ironic, like even in a more serious context beyond this. Like, what will happen to Destiny beyond Final Shape? Because we don't know. There's no expansions confirmed for it. Beyond that, there's no this, there's no that. As far as we know, the game might just, well,
That's it. It's over.
yeah, it's over. Shut the servers down. We're done. Final cutscene. Your guardian dies. End of everything. Probably not. I'm just gonna get straight to it. Probably not. Because here's the thing, right? Had this game been in the state it was when Destiny 1 first launched, way back when, and still being in that somewhat state of it being, kind of on life support, maybe not everyone enjoyed it, I would say it's a possibility. But considering where Destiny is now, as a franchise, as a game series, I would argue that it is on par with Halo, and that actually brings up an interesting point.
Hmm.
After Bungie left kind of working with Microsoft, because of the legality of why they made Halo and the backroom discussions and the statements of the contracts, they could not retain the rights to Halo. They could not take their toy and go home. Microsoft kept that toy, and well, 343 came up with that, and we all know how that ended. Because of that, Bungie lost a big chunk of revenue and a big chunk of, I guess, kind of their legacy in a weird regard, you could say.
A part
That now
of
Microsoft
what they
owns, I
were
think.
at the time.
Yeah, for the most part. Now, granted, somewhat of them did want to leave the Halo project and move on to other projects, so it's not like they were forced off the project by any means. Some of them did indeed want to leave as far as the higher-ups are concerned. But the point is, they could not go back to the Halo universe after that. It was a very, once we make this decision, that's it for Halo for the most part. We might reference it if we kind of negotiate with Microsoft in future agreements, but legally speaking, we cannot touch it ever again after that unless they ask us back. So, what to do then? Well, they wanted to make Destiny, and over these last 9 years, they built up Destiny to a point where I think I can say this, and I think Justin might agree with me over there, that it is in a position where it is at least on par with the kind of franchise fame of Halo.
Yeah, I would definitely say it's got its own like feel.
I wouldn't
Like
say it's
I
better
don't
or worse, but
I
it's
really
certainly on
don't know
par.
I really don't know what like the kind of word to use for it, but like it has its own identity that like Halo does. Like Halo has its own set identity, and Destiny certainly feels like it has its own as well.
Yeah, like Destiny has grown to a point in a game series where it is kind of like World of Warcraft. It's kind of like Halo. You can mention it to somebody, and for the most part, they'll probably know at least vaguely what you're talking about. Now, is it as popular as Halo? That's a room for debate. Maybe, maybe not, depending on who you ask. But it is certainly reaching that kind of height, I'd like to think, or close to that height, I would say, in terms of ubiquity and fame as a game series and franchise. So, is Destiny dead beyond Final Shape? No. Is Destiny 2 dead beyond Final Shape? No, that's more of a debate. We don't really know. Again, there's been rumors of Destiny 3 since all the way back in Forsaken. Way back 3-4 years ago. So, we don't know. We know that before Destiny and Bungie left Activision, that Activision, I should have gotten this article, but we know this is a thing, so trust my word on this. I'm sure there's an article about it somewhere talking about it. But basically, what they wanted to do was basically Activision wanted to make Destiny a yearly thing like they did with Call of Duty. And we kind of saw how that was kind of going at the time, with content being a little bit more rushed as time went on and stuff like
Shadowkeep
that.
and the end of Forsaken.
Shadowkeep was actually their first attempt beyond Activision. There's actually a funny story behind that, but we can get to that later. But yeah, no. Before they left Activision, there was a push by Activision to make it a yearly release thing, like Call of Duty, so they were going to make a new Destiny every year. Obviously, for those who play COD, you can kind of see the red flags in doing a project like that. In the end, however, it became unprofitable in the eyes of Activision, who wrote it off in a literal statement to their board saying that we don't see the game as profitable. Now, you're probably thinking, wait, was the game losing money this time? No, absolutely not. Let me give you a little insight into Activision's mentality. Just because it doesn't make all the money doesn't mean it's not making money. But as far as Activision is concerned, there is no difference in these two descriptions. If it ain't making all the money, it ain't making money. I think you can kind of get where I'm going with this. Destiny wasn't making the metric truck tons of money that they wanted. It was making money, and a good chunk of money, but not to what Activision wanted, which, well, we all know what they want. So they went to their board when people asked, Activision, what do you think of their project? And, financial, they think no. Funny enough, Destiny immediately shot back after this, and Bungie specifically shot back after this, going, we are very proud of the game, actually. Soon after that, there was a released statement, maybe in the next few months or maybe a year or so, revealing that they were splitting with Activision. So I guess that was the straw that broke the camel's back. In the end, they took Bungie. They took Destiny independent. They took Bungie, took the project, and basically went home. And well, we know how that went. They tried with Shadowkeep to try to stick to the yearly schedule as far as releases go for expansions at the very least that Activision imposed on them because they thought they could try and maintain this. The problem is when they split with Activision, they lost two big studios, of which I cannot remember the names of, that were helping and were kind of lent over by Activision, which is why when people say, will we get an expansion as big as Forsaken, meaning, a destination or expansion that comes with two new locations, two big patrol spaces. One of them was literally a secret that you had to basically uncover after you completed the campaign. And with whole new stuff and stuff related to it, they said probably not because they don't have the studios, at least at the time. Maybe that's changed now. They've certainly expanded their team since then, so who knows. But at the time, they didn't think that was possible. And with Shadowkeep, like I said, they tried to stick to that yearly schedule. And, well, Shadowkeep was decent, but it wasn't as great as it could have been. That's why games, they started pushing it back further and further, until eventually they didn't release in the same year as expansion at all. And they basically released one every February. So they gave themselves about a year, maybe a bit more, to work on an expansion, which was far more than Activision's kind of a lot more stringent calendar. But that history lesson aside, is the game going to end? I don't know. The future of Destiny 2 is up in the air. Is Destiny going to be over? No. That brings me kind of to Luke Smith, the former game director of Destiny, who's been around since Destiny 1. What happened to him? Why don't you see him much these days? Well, truth is, he's still working at Bungie, but he's been ascended in his role, shall we say. He's no longer working as the game's director, he's working as the, shall we say, franchise director nowadays. He has been elevated to kind of managing Destiny as a franchise, which clearly shows that Bungie thinks, at the very least, that the game's on par with something like Halo's Ubiquity, and they might be looking to take it in a multi-medial format. And we've already kind of seen this play out. We've seen that there are comics for Destiny that tell other bits of the story. There's cookbooks, don't ask me why. But there are other mediums that Destiny exists in. And there's always been talk of Destiny as a TV series. And I think Jessica can also agree with me when I say that when you look at the lore of Destiny, especially when you look at some of the deep lore, there's lots of opportunities here for a TV series. I mean, you could base an entire TV series in the Dark Ages.
That part can be said for a lot of different content in general from a lot of different series and stuff. It's just companies gotta kind of take the step forward and be like, okay, let's try to branch a little more.
Yeah, no. Companies are universally pretty safe, and that's usually because good business practices stick with what works. I can tell you that for kind of a fact. Businesses don't like to rock the boat if they don't have to for the risk of losing profit.
Yeah.
Most video games, I find, though, and most games in general, are difficult to translate to mediums such as television. Because here's the thing, right? Games and books, or movies and books, right, are two very different beasts in a way. Books don't have an interactive element for the most part, so they have to be very deep with how they describe things, which allows a reader to imagine the world in their mind. Now, this is good in a way because this lends itself very nicely to TV. Because in some cases, they just have to take the TV's the book the book script and basically translate it into a movie script, which in some cases is a one-to-one verbatim, which is very nice because, like I said, they're often very descriptive books. I mean, look at a Lord of the Rings book. That's fairly thick.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. Whereas games have an interactive element to them, so there might be some aspects of the game that don't translate well to movie format, and in a way, movies and games are the same thing. It's just one has a much deeper interaction with the player and the watcher by allowing you to actually guide the character's movements, whereas a TV is a much more passive experience. But in a way, they play out kind of the same way. You plop in a disc and something plays out on screen. So that means that sometimes it's not easy to translate into a movie. Plus, if you translate a game into a movie, you might just be telling the same story over again.
Yeah.
There's really not much because, when you read a book, the first thing you probably think if it's a really good book is like, wow, I
Well,
wonder how this world would look like. Well, in a video
well,
game, you actually get to see what that world
well.
looks
I
like, so
can,
there's
I,
really no
I, I can, I can at least give like this as like the best go-to for
difference.
something that would work out nicely for like some kind of movie. So in Halo CE, you go through the Master Chief going and finding the Halo ring. You and Cortana go and figure out, oh, this is what the ring actually is meant to do, and you go and try to disable it and stop the ring from, destroying half the galaxy type of thing.
Insert Halo 1 plot.
Basically the Halo 1 plot. But what happens after Halo 1 is actually interesting because like you think to yourself, okay, well the Master Chief's left, and then in Halo 2, all of a sudden he's on Earth. How did he get here? What happened? Well, there's an entire book, and I believe it's Halo First Strike, and it goes through all of the events that taken place after Halo CE, how the Master Chief actually went back to Reach, the very planet that he left just before Halo CE. And then he goes back to Reach, and then eventually he goes and starts making his way back to Earth. But then they find out, oh hey, there's this big Covenant station or something, fueling station, that would looks like it's set up perfectly to go and invade Earth. If we take it out, this will be a good strategic advantage to go and give us an edge if they do try to attack us, which they probably are planning to do. And that's exactly what happens. Like that kind of thing would be pretty good content for a movie because it's an entire book and they can go into detail with some of the things that go on. Like
And
that's
that kind of
that's
raises.
like that's one of the good cases of you've got the gameplay and the gameplay is separate from the actual book and you can go and kind of have a little creative liberty with it if you want to because you're not kind of stringent and stuck within the confines of okay, well this is what happened in the game and well this is literally what happened in it. You can't just go and rewrite something that is already happened and what the player people have already experienced. Like
That's the thing, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that raises a good point of like the whole grander reason why sometimes games don't translate well to movies for a very good reason. It's that for the most part, games, like I said, are very similar to movies in that they really don't have much beyond them. If I play a
Yeah.
Sonic game, the entire plot of the game is told to me throughout the course of the game. If I translate that to a movie, it's kind of the same thing, just minus the interactive element of playing the game, right? Not much difference.
No.
When you look at games like Halo, when you look at games like Destiny, there's a story in them that expands beyond the game itself. There is a lot deeper story that you don't hear about, or if you do, it's in some other section somewhere that, there's a lot deeper a story to work with there. I don't want to say games are shallow by any means, it's just that they tell all of their story generally within the plot of that game. So if they translate it into a movie, it would be a one-to-one verbatim, which is why generally we sometimes see either games being readapted into movies through the form of remakes or retellings where they have to change some things just to keep it fresh in a way, or they just do it in a way like, for example, Assassin's Creed. is an interesting good parallel here that I thought about a while ago. That's a game that tried to tell something different in the Assassin's Creed universe, but the problem is with the way the Assassin's Creed universe is, and just games in general in a way, it's a great movie if you know the series and you know the lore itself. If you don't, it's a decent movie, but sometimes it's like, what the hell is happening? You sometimes just kind of have to know the story. So you're either left with you're kind of left with one or two problems Hollywood has. Either number one, they have to rewrite the story, which in some ways doesn't guarantee it'll be good. I mean, there's a lot of controversy with the Halo TV series, going back to Halo for a second, of the writers who wrote that series not even watching or playing the games. So that's questionable. Why would you put writers in charge of making a retelling if they don't even know the frickin' source material? Or you have an instance where you keep strictly to what the story says and you don't break the lore for the most part, but the problem is you don't tell that lore because you don't play the game, but because people haven't played the game, and so people who watch the movie who haven't played the game are like, yay, nice movie, flashy colors. Didn't understand a bleating thing though, because all of the references went above my head. So you're left with that kind of conundrum, right? So you're kind of left in a situation where you have to have a universe where there's deep storytelling, where there's deep threads to pull on, and it's not just play the game and done. There is a level of games just don't have, in a way, the same level of story that a book does, and so there's not as much to draw upon for a script. If you tried to make an Uncharted movie based purely off the Uncharted game, which they did, if you make a one-to-one retelling, people might see it as samey. And also, there might not be enough to make that. So, you kind of have to go outside the box, and there you have issues. But anyways, moving on. I could rant on that all day, but you're not here to talk about that. We're not here to talk about that. But anyways, so the grand question, like I said, will Destiny end? No. Simple answer, no. I don't think they'll end the franchise. Because like I said, it's way too profitable at this point. That would be essentially like killing off Halo again. Now, granted, they have said they wanted to make a new game by 2025 and a new IP. So they want to make a new franchise. They want to try and go beyond Destiny. Because right now, for those who don't know, Bungie is solely focused on Destiny. It's their only moneymaker, which, don't get me wrong, makes a lot of money. But again, going back to business is not exactly a great idea because, well, let's be honest, Destiny probably won't fail, but beyond Destiny, they really don't have any other sources of income. So they're kind of stagnant as a studio at the moment. And as a business, which might not mean much to gamers, but for a business perspective, that's not good. So, they're trying to move beyond Destiny. Does that mean they'll forget Destiny? Probably not. Like I said, it makes way too much money. Now, that does raise an interesting question, though, of what will become of Destiny 2 after Lightfall. Now, going back to what we can confirm, and when I do have actual things, in the Vidoc, Joe Blackburn, who, like I said, is the second to hold the title, maybe the third, technically depending on how you look at it, says that there will be a Destiny beyond the Light and Darkness saga. He mentions that there will be a Destiny, not a Destiny 2 specifically. We'll get to that. But that they're excited to take the game in directions that no one's ever seen before and stuff like that. So they clearly want to expand the game, right? There's still many, many concepts they haven't explored in the story yet that, again, we've talked about. What exactly does the other race's homeworlds look like? Because the entire game's plot, for those who don't know, takes place, for the most part, if entirely, in our solar system, in Sol. Our worlds. We know what those look like. We've seen them all, for the most part. Well, roughly.
Technically, this is all fictional versions of what the worlds will look like. We haven't actually been on any of them besides Mars and the moon.
Yeah, details. Anyways.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong, but details. The point. But, it takes mostly within our solar system, which, again, the games have explored. We know what our worlds look like. We know what that is, We're running out of worlds to play with. But there's always been hints in the lore recently that we'll go beyond the system, and that there's a few worlds that might be of interest, One of the alien races called the Cabal come from a homeworld known as Total Battle. We don't know what the world looks like. We have illusions to what the world looks like. Some people have kind of described it in some cases, what the streets of, maybe the capital look like, or maybe you've seen, maybe in a dungeon somewhere, maybe what it might look like, alluding to it. But we don't know for sure. And the same logic applies to another alien race, which is the Elixni. Reese, what does their homeworld look like, especially after their civilization collapsed? What does that look like? Does it look like basically what the world looked like after humanity's collapse, just elixnified? That's actually not a bad word. I like
Elixnified.
Elix. I like that word. I'm coining it now. I called it.
My boy.
But what does that world look like? Apparently, according to the Elixni, their golden age was far grander than ours, and they were far more technologically advanced than us during our golden age. So what the heck does that look like? Kind of curious. So those are worlds we might be able to explore. There's also many kind of races in the deep lore alluded to that we have never seen before. There's many things they could kind of pull on to go beyond the story, beyond light and dark. So, there's certainly narrative threads they can pull on. It's not like in some cases where you get to the end of a game series and the game series ends not because that, the game isn't profitable or anything. It's just that there's nothing left to tell. The story has kind of, you either have to invent a new villain or invent a new, crux of plot or whatever to keep the story going.
Big bad.
Yeah, basically. And well, that will happen for Destiny, because the big bad right now is the Witness, which is kind of the culmination of 10 years of story development in a way. And they'll have to make a new bad guy, but there are other bad guys also that exist in the lore that could pull on, Zivor Arath, the god of war, We know of her, we've seen her in the lore.
Well, we're probably going to be fighting her and doing stuff.
I imagine she's going to be a raid boss. That would certainly make sense.
I would bet something's going to be done with her soon.
I imagine if the Witness, when we ever fight him, if we ever fight him, I keep saying him, but technically it's an it. We really don't know when it is. I imagine, like, at the end of these 10 years, next year, come Final Shape, the Witness, if it is a boss, will be a raid boss, like Oryx was back in Taken King, and it will probably be on a high note. Like, it will be the raid boss to end all raid bosses, because it is literally the final villain of 10 years worth of storytelling, so that would be interesting. I would be very shocked if we just kind of, put the Witness down with like a single round in a story mission, like at the very end. Really, really Aldrin Solve style. That would be very anticlimactic in a way. But we will see, right? But as for Destiny 2, I don't know. It's up in the air. Maybe they'll make the legendary Destiny 3. Like I said, after they broke off with Activision, the story goes that was eventually canned, and the reason was Beyond Light, story goes, was meant to actually be the start of Destiny 3, where the plot would pick up. But after they left Activision, they dropped the whole idea of annual sequels, so they just kind of rolled that into Destiny 2, and here we are. Will we still not see a Destiny 3? It's still possible we might. Like I said, there's a lot of things they might be able to change, and they might just be able to change the framework, and there's a lot of stuff they could do, right? Imagine what a next-generation graphics engine could do. I mean, don't get me wrong, the game looks still very good. I mean, as far as MMOs go, most MMOs are from, like, the golden age of MMOs from, like, 2012-ish for the most part.
Yeah, 2012, 2014.
Somewhere around those lines. So, as far as MMOs go, it looks very good, especially compared to the competition. But, that might, there still might be a Destiny 3 to possibly begin the new era of Destiny. I can see that being a reason for doing it. So, that whole business out of the way. It took way longer to explain than I hope it did. But what time are we at?
30.
30? Yeah. What the hell? It'll be another longer video. Hopefully not an hour, though. I'm going to try and make it not an hour. So, other big question. Will we see a new Darkness subclass after Strand? Now, you might be thinking, for those who know kind of this game and everything, you're probably thinking, yeah, certainly, but the truth is we really don't know. Because here's the thing, right? Some people wonder if after Strand there won't be any new subclasses, What will we get? What will we, how will it work out? The reason is that originally people assumed that there'd be 3 light and 3 dark, because originally the game had 3 light subclasses. Originally, funny enough, if you remember way back in the day, before Forsaken, and ironically even before Destiny 1, because this was kind of retroactively added back in Forsaken, each class only had 2 of the light subclasses, not all 3. And in Taken King, they added the 3rd one, so all classes can have all 3 subclasses. Which again, in lore, makes sense because there's not really any real big reason that one class cannot do the things of the other outside of pure personal preference. So it makes sense.
I mean,
You know,
isn't it
if
like technically lore-wise, every guardian can technically be capable of
of
anything
doing
else?
every other guardian power.
Yeah, it's just the only problem is so, like one class is better at it than others, and they have to learn it
Yeah.
from the other.
Yeah, and it's all based of, again, personal preference, like I said, right? And, I mean, let's be honest, a Titan using a Hunter Dodge terrifies the living feck out of me.
Well, you just imagine them with the shotgun, or imagine them with the machine guns all the time.
Yeah. That's a recipe for PTSD.
And you've
But,
seen me with a machine gun and the Hunter Dodge, so
can you imagine a Titan with a golden gun? Oh, God.
yes.
Terrifying.
Well, I mean,
You just
people were
pop like a
saying
Titan
for
barricade.
the strand one, it would have been pretty cool if it was a machine gun, like kind of like the golden gun, but it was just a machine gun type of thing.
They would weave a strand machine gun. They shoot strand bullets. That would be metal. I'm not gonna lie.
Like it would fit the Titan class hard, but
Yeah, no, just sit there and just be like, go full Rambo with his gun and just just mow down everything.
yeah.
That would be something. Not gonna lie, that would be something.
There you go.
But yeah, no, this question really kind of bases off the fact that like everyone thought before Strand was revealed, because before Lightfall's reveal came out and everything, we didn't know what the 3rd subclass or the 2nd darkness subclass would be. We didn't know what it was. Everyone assumed it was going to be poison. In fact, ironically, in the trailer, Blackburn even mentions this when he goes, "Are we going to do what everyone thinks we are? Are we going to do poison?" No. We're going to do something only Destiny can do. So they want to be original, right? They don't want to simply go with the simple archetype of poison. Yeah, they could. There's certainly a lot of emphasis in the story where that could happen. Hive magic works off a similar concept, so it's certainly not beyond the realm of what could be done. But they wanted to do something very unique. So it kind of leaves up the question of where will they go next? Will they go anywhere next? There's no real proof that says we will get a 3rd darkness subclass. And it was even asked, is there any ideas beyond this? And basically they kind of said, for the most part, yes, there is. When we make one thing, there's a lot of kind of player fantasies that that we leave on the cutting room table. So I'm kind of interested to see where it goes next, right? The power to move worlds certainly seems appealing, and there's a lot of hints that might be a greater form of the power of taking. And I've wanted a Taken power since Taken King, so give it to me.
I mean, with how things have been getting built up, it makes sense that getting the Taken abilities would be something we're given at the end after we've kind of defeated everyone. Like we've completely earned the Taken abilities. Like Oryx may have been like, oh yeah, you get the Taken abilities, but in both light and dark means, like in the eyes of light and dark, we have earned the ability to use both light and dark and wield it freely.
And that's the thing, right? When you go to like the philosophy of both, like even Oryx, funny enough, makes comment on this in the Books of Sorrow, which is, for those who don't know, essentially the Hive's Historia, told by Oryx's perspective. And basically, the shtick is that the light is all about giving, which, funny enough, there's even an allusion to this in the raid Vow of the Disciple in the Ghost Show, where Rolk, who is the raid boss, tries to take a ghost and essentially give himself the light and give him guardian status. And the Traveler basically intervenes and forces the ghost to self-destruct before saying, "This one is not for you." Basically, the concept is that the light gives. You cannot take from the light. The light must give you something, and if you are not given it, you do not deserve it. Versus the darkness, which is all about the polar opposite of that. It's about taking. If you want something, you're not going to be given it. You have to go get it. And if you can't go get it, you're not worthy of it. So, it is that dichotomy there, right?
Yeah.
And this question of will there be a 3rd darkness subclass really kind of burns from the point of like, every 2 years there's this concept of a new subclass added, or the adding back of a new subclass. I kind of mentioned this, alluding to it earlier, but when Destiny 2 came out, they took out again the ability of using all three subclasses because they revamped all the subclass systems. So each class could only use two subclasses again, but they changed it up. I think at least back in Taken King, it was Void and Arc originally for no, it wasn't. It was, I don't remember which ones it was actually. No, it was Void and Solar back then. And I think in Destiny 2, at least from Warlock's perspective, because I only play Warlock, I'm elitist that way, I guess. It was Arc and Solar. At least I think. But regardless, they had to add that in back in Forsaken, which was 2 years after the game came out. They added the third light subclass in again. Then, come Beyond Light 2 years later, they added in Stasis. Now, 2 years later after that, you got Strand. Here's the problem. Again, going back to the roadmap, Lightfall is the last thing, or again, I keep making this problem since Lightfall came out. I keep thinking that's the last one. Final Shape is the last expansion again that we know for Destiny 2. Here's the problem. These new subclass things come in every 2 years. Here's the problem. That's only 1 year away from now. So that breaks with the trend of every 2 years there's a new subclass concept. So the question is, since there's no 2-year timeline, will we not get a third subclass since it breaks with their trend? So everyone's wondering, will there be something else? And there's been, like I said, a lot of debate about that, and they've asked the game directors, and they say, yeah, it's possible. I think it was either Astacross who said this, but basically the shtick is that, if they were to focus all of their efforts into making a third subclass for the Darkness, then they might be able to hammer it out in 1 year. It's possible. Usually what it works is like this when it comes to subclasses. I remember for at least Stasis it worked like this. Stasis comes out, it's broken and overpowered, or a new subclass comes out in general, it's broken and overpowered, and then over the course of that next year they kind of reel it back into line. Now, a lot of people think that Bungie intentionally does this in a way, because better to have something overpowered than underpowered for the sake of reception. It would kind of be a buzzkill if it's like, here's this brand new power and it sucks. Better it be overpowered so they can reel it back in. Better overestimate. And there might also be a level of intention they do this where it's like, for the sake of game sales, we'll just make it very, very overpowered at first. And again, that point is strictly a theory I will mention. But the shtick is that, they usually take at least a year to bring that subclass back into line before they work on another one. So could they make a third Darkness subclass before the end of Light and Dark Saga? Because it would be interesting, when you think about it from a story perspective also, getting a third Darkness power after the War of Light and Dark technically ends. How would that go about? Like, some people theorize that, the Witness might give us something in Final Shape. Well, I say give, but we take something from the Witness.
Well, in a way, when you kind of think about it, when we got Stasis, it was more of a we were given it, like the Witness and the pyramids and all that were like, oh yes, take it, we want you to have it, take it.
Yeah, we took it, but it was after a great deal of encouragement.
Yeah, like when you really think about it, like this time I will feel like it's actually we're taking it, but when it came to Stasis, it was very much along the lines of quote unquote, take it.
Take it. You want this.
You need it, don't you? Look at it, how useful it is.
So yeah, no. It is interesting, right? But, the question, like I said, really boils down to, with the short time span they have, would they give us a new third Darkness subclass to balance it finally out with 3 on Light, 3 on Dark, and then just kind of, work forward from those 3 in future expansions and kind of build things, maybe add more aspects every 2 years, I don't know. It's possible. Like I said, we don't know. Would it be interesting if it's like the final power we get is literally the power to move worlds, and that's how we be able to move beyond Soul? Just gain
or
the
go
power to
back
open
in
up
time like some
shack.
people theorize.
That would be interesting, but I don't know how that would relate to darkness. But who knows? Maybe Destiny will finally do it. Maybe it'll be like connected to Deep Sight in some weird way, like a higher power of that. Open up wounds and like the effects are off to the side. Are we a joke to you?
It's like we've been doing this longer than you, and you think you can finally get it to work?
No, unacceptable. Forbidden. Banned for
Go,
racism.
go away.
Go away. Yeah,
You
no.
failed.
It's like the Vex. The Vex spent eternity trying to figure out how to like open portals in time. Eventually, they learned to do it centuries ago, and it's like we learned how to do it in like 10 years, and they're like, not worthy.
Yes.
Guess who's Panoptes now? But anyways, that's a that's a reference, a very obscure reference, I think, at this point. But anyways,
One that not too many know.
but anyways, again, the final real question is: will it become like Destiny 3? Will there be a Destiny 3? Well, I'll open up the question up to open the question up to the audience. Well, the audience, singular. What do you
Yes.
think, Justin? Will there be a Destiny 3 post post Final Shape?
Honestly, I can't really tell for certain. I have a feeling Destiny will definitely continue in some way, shape, or form, but I don't know. Like, honestly, the more time that passes, the more it honestly feels like they might do the kind of thing that I went and told Nick a few times, where they go and make like a separate kind of Destiny where they can go and have players be able to play past content. Like, it kind of feels like that's what's going on. The more they go and set up things to be put into like a time capsule type of thing, and they can bring it back whenever they want, like the vault. Like, they vault content and they bring it back. Exhibit A being raids, and Exhibit B going to be the seasonal, like specific seasonal activities that are going to be coming this expansion. Like
Well, that's actually a good point. If I might just interject for a second, I remember
yeah,
reading recently that they're also going to bring back exotic missions.
yeah, like exotic missions, raids, strikes. Like, it honestly feels like that's kind of the route that they're planning on taking Destiny, where eventually down the line you will be able to play content that you used to be able to play long ago.
My hard drive shivers in anticipation and concern.
Yeah. So, but no, like the point does stand. Like, the longer time continues, the more and more it does feel like that's exactly the kind of route that they're planning on taking it. So, I can't really say there's going to be a Destiny 3, but I can say there's definitely going to be Destiny. Like, they're definitely not going to stop doing it.
I mean, again, that is an interesting point. I remember reading, actually, funny enough, in that same article that come Witch Queen, or Witch Queen, come Lightfall tomorrow, they're actually going to revamp old raids. Like 2 raids. I think it was Arms Dealer and one other one. I can't remember. No, it was. Yeah, I can't remember. It was. Yeah, Arms Dealer and one other one, and then 2 other ones from D2 Vanilla later on down the line. They're going to revamp, and what they're going to do is they're going to add different objectives to it. They're going to add champions, or I think not add champions, but a few other things to it. Basically, they're going to redo the kind of like the plot of it, right? Because at this point, in the in canonically speaking, we're dealing with D2 vanilla problems. It's like, yeah, it's nice and all, but we did that technically 6 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
Not exactly canonical, right? Like, I get why they're bringing this stuff in. Like, Presage is dearly beloved. It is very interesting. It is a wonderful mission to play through. Real eerie, which again fits the tone. And, raids, which they put a lot of work into, so I can see them not getting rid of those because it takes a lot of freaking work to make a raid. There's an entire team just for those. But things like that where there's a lot of narrative and a lot of investment behind making them, yeah, I can see them keeping that in a kind of time-locked state. Like, I confess, when I first remember hearing that they were going to make raids and they weren't going to revamp them and just keep them as they were, I was pissed, not going to lie, because I thought it was lazy. But in a way, when you look at it from a grand point of view, yeah, narratively it sucks, but I can see why. There's a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of mechanics they put into these raids, so it makes sense to leave them as is, right? They are big moments in time. They are big bosses. They are big problems we're dealing with, and there's a lot of effort put into making these raids. So it would take a lot of effort to revamp them and rechange them. So it's better, safer, and arguably perhaps more desirable for some people than to just leave them as is. Now, I don't agree with this idea across the board. For example, I certainly agree with the idea of them revamping strikes, maybe adding more story to them, giving them different reasons as to why we're there. Think of I think it's the Defiled raid, I think they call it, in the Cosmodrome, where technically that is Omnigul, which is a D1 strike they brought into D2, but they didn't just copy paste Omnigul back into D2 because, you know, she's dead. She's been dead for, oh, 8 years at this point. So it would be kind of weird to see her back, especially because, like I said, for those who know the lore, Resurrection kind of spits in the face of High Religion. But so they brought a different character in and had a whole different story as to why you were there and stuff like that, a different reason as to why you were back in that specific strike doing that. Yes, the boss has the skin model of Omnigul, but they might just look similar. Maybe that's her sister twice removed. I don't know. But which is why I got so angry, and I think a lot of people did at the time, from what I remember hearing, when they brought back Sepic's Prime Strike and left it as is. Now, there's some debate you could admittedly do there. I'll be fair. It was the very first strike, I think, introduced in Destiny. I think you could actually play it in D1 beta, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong, though. But, there was that. So there is some prestige around it, so I can kind of see them doing it. There's maybe like a little nostalgia value there. But it seems for strikes going forward and stuff like that, they're going to see about revamping them, giving them new reasons why you're there, and we'll see at least two of those kind of come to fruition tomorrow with Lightfall in the arms dealer and one other one, which will be interesting. Maybe it'll have us going to the ship under Keitel's banner and clearing it out of new enemies. That's another thing they're adding. New enemy types in the strike. So who knows? Maybe in these revamped strikes we'll see a Tormentor as a final boss, or as a sub boss. That would be interesting. Maybe we'll have to clear out the area.
The way Tormentors have been hyped and all that, it kind of feels like they're just going to be like a sub boss type of thing.
That's another thing people are afraid of. They're afraid that they'll go the way of the the Lucent Hive and the Lucent Hive Guardians, so Risen technically.
Well, I'm okay with the Lucent Hive and the Lucent Hive Guardians. I just don't want more champions. I don't want champions.
Well, they are giving more reasons to get rid of champions. I mean, like I said, they're opening up the possibilities. They're giving each of the subclasses their intrinsic ways of stunning specific types of champions as well. So your subclass will also matter which champions you go after. So I think you can use like Stasis to go after both Unstoppable and Overloads in different ways. So they're giving them more reasons, right? So it clearly seems that they understand, at least in some regard, the issues people have with champions and like the kind of tunneling they have with people and that. But we'll see, right? But for the most part, yeah, that's the state of Destiny, I suppose. What do I have anything else in my notes? It's getting long, but do I have anything else?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'll leave you off with this note. Destiny 2 might become like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 13. What do I mean by that? Well, Final Fantasy 13 and World of Warcraft don't have yearly updates anymore, at least big story updates for the most part, that I know of. Maybe every year or 2 or 3 in some cases, they have a new story update, but it's not an annual thing anymore, right? They're still supporting the community, but they're not, constantly making new updates, at least big updates. It might go the way of that, where they ease off a bit on their yearly release schedule, or in some cases a lot, and kind of, every 3 years have something new. With the seasonal model of storytelling they have now, that might not be conducive, so we will see. But that's a possibility of where Destiny 2 might go. Or hell, who knows? After this, we might get Destiny 3, or who knows? Maybe come Lightfall, or come the Final Shape trailer, they'll be like, here's the Final Shape trailer. By the way, here's the next 6 expansions for the next 6 years.
Yeah.
That would be funny. the reason they haven't shown us any of that yet is just they haven't finished writing it yet. That might be the only reason we don't know the expansions beyond that. So who knows? Maybe there will never be a Destiny 3. So this will either go, like I said, one of two ways. Either grandiose, they'll be like, okay, cool, we'll give you an expansion every 2 or 3 years. Well, no, technically there's 3 ways. They'll give you one expansion every, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, so they'll ease off a bit on your release schedule. Or, come Final Shape, like Vidoc for it, they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, here's the next 6 expansions for the next 6 years. Because at that point they'll have had to at least make mock-up concepts. Or, counterpoint, come the Vidoc, they'll be like, cool, here's Final Shape, and here's the trailer for Destiny 3, you know. The world beyond Soul.
Yeah, I mean it's in a weird state where you don't really know right now. It's honestly hard to tell.
Like I said, the only thing that we can really glean is that Destiny as a franchise will not end. It has become too big, too profitable, too ubiquitous, and like I said, they've even got the old community director and two of the old community directors, or not community directors, game directors, who've now ascended to the rank of managing the franchise as a whole. So, you know, we will certainly see Destiny continue, if not in the form of a game, which will always be, I imagine, in some form or another. Maybe in the form of a comic, or like I said, the legendary TV show. Destiny, The Dark Ages. That's actually a good title. I like that. Bungie, if you're listening, you can have that one.
You can have
But
it.
regardless, you can have it. My only demand is that I be allowed to take credit for it. But yeah.
Well,
But
there
yeah,
you
no,
go.
that's it, right? That's the state of Destiny, as that I think we could see. Anything to add on to that, Justin? You know, anything I think I missed?
Not really, no.
Any grand final parting words as we go into Lightfall?
Give them hell. And send them out with
Give
a
him hell,
bang.
boy. Yeah, no. I won't lie. I actually I tried to log into the tower this morning to like stare at the the spot where the traveler was one final time and just go into reset like that and go into like the disconnect like that. You know, symbolic, right? But unfortunately, I think I misjudged the time because by the time I got there, it was already in maintenance state. So I'm like, oh well.
So
Where were you when Lightfall began?
real quick, is the game in maintenance right now where you can't do anything with it right now, or?
Yes. Basically, what is happening is that the game currently right now is running a big back-end maintenance. So the companion apps are disabled, the game is disabled, it's all taken down for the time being. And come 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the game will come back online, and once that happens, you can play Lightfall. Basically, we're in the middle of a big maintenance phase right now.
So
where they're just putting
in other words, we had quote unquote one more day to do things, but in reality we didn't.
You didn't do things, did you?
Oh no, I did stuff. I did go and get my deep sights and stuff, but I was hoping to get one. I was honestly hoping to get one more.
In fairness, they're removing most of the deep site currencies come Lightfall, or they're removing the basic ones, and they're going to move the other two come Lightfall. So,
yes, but that doesn't help me unlock them.
What did? Well, okay, they're revamping deep site, you know. So once you get the red border, that's it. You're good. Here's the pattern. They're
Okay,
removing the objective.
so literally the ones where I've got like one border grabbed, it counts as, oh, you have it now.
I don't think that. If you have one border, you only still have one border, I think. But like they're removing the objective. So like I get a deep site weapon, right? I don't have to progress it to get that deep site blueprint progress anymore. They're just like, okay, you've got a deep site weapon. If you've got open blueprint slots for it for like unlocking that thing, they're like, okay, here's one more to that. Plus, they're also revamping it so that because the currency's going away, right? There's really no need to hoard red frames in your vault anymore, which is again funny because the whole reason deep site came to be in crafting was to get rid of the vault size problem, but instead it just created a new vault size problem.
Yeah, it literally
where
just
people were just hoarding red borders.
Yeah, it literally just added to it. It's like, I need this currency, and there's only so much that I can have.
So their great plan at the end of it come Lightfall, after everything they tried, was just, you know what, F it, we'll remove the currencies entirely eventually, and come Lightfall, we'll remove the very basic currency, so you don't need to hoard red borders anymore. Also, second point, only weapons that can be progressed as blueprints or are part of the deep site system and craftable system will drop red borders. So No more random red borders from other unaffiliated weapon types. If it ain't in the craftable system, don't expect to get a deep set for it.
That'll honestly be good, because I'm tired of like seeing like 10 or 11 deep sight, quote unquote deep sight weapons in a row, and
Or
it's
like
like I
random
can't
weapons.
do anything with these. What do you want from me?
Would it be funny if they canonized this kind of like how they canonized the Stason nerfs in like in lore, where it's like the deep sight system got revolutionized by deep sight itself, and the darkness made it simpler.
Yeah, it's like too many guardians have been complaining about it.
The witness was just like, "Fine, take your fix."
It's like, fine, this is clearly not gonna work out for you. We'll do it this way.
The witness secretly in a room trying to figure out how to make crafting big for guardians for some other purpose. How do I make it work?
This isn't working. I need something else.
It ain't working. I mean, like I said, they did canonize deep sight nerfs in lore, where it's like, since almost feels like the power, almost like a virus, made itself easier to use in the hopes of propagating itself. Which is real fourth wall breaking weird, but hey, that's Bungie for you.
Pretty much.
But yeah, no, that's state of Destiny. That's the state of the game. That's what we think will happen beyond Final Shape. Again, summary: will Bungie end Destiny as a series? Definitely not. Like I said, they've got people working on the franchise nowadays, so I doubt they would suddenly say, to hell with all that and pull it all down. It makes way too much money at this point. Will Destiny 2 continue? That's a bit more up in the air. Like I said, we might see the releases slow down. We might see them suddenly release the next 6 expansion plans for the next 6 years. Come Lightfall's or come beyond Final Shape's Vidoc, or like I said, Final Point, they might just say, "Here's Destiny 3's trailer." It could go any of those ways. It could go none of those ways. We will see. That would be interesting, though. Just end of Final Shape, and they're just like, "Yep, okay, that's it, done. Click,
Bye.
close down the servers.
Bye-bye.
Game over." Lightfall literally, or Final Shape literally ends with you dying.
I mean,
Everyone's giving.
It honestly looks like that during that one cutscene.
Yeah, you just get yanked by a tormentor. But
well, that, and I was referring to the one where it's like, oh yeah, you and your ghost get like split into.
That's not you. That's another guy.
But still, like you see a guy literally like
Yeah, the witness raid boss is just you going to the raid, getting to the witness. He just flicks your head. You just like fall apart.
It's like, oh wow, cool. All right,
That
well,
worked.
time to reset.
Time to reset the game. But new
It's
guardian, new protagonist. But
you killed me
all
and my ghost. Don't care. Plot
Don't
armor.
Plot armor. I'm immortal.
Insert every single time a raid team has died in a zone where they should have been dead.
Now, canonically, no raids have ever been completed because people keep dying in the raid zones. The Vault of Glass is still unfinished, or it's still
Nobody
sitting
ever
there somewhere.
finished the vault.
So that's why they still exist today. No one ever finished it. Plot twist: no one ever killed Oryx. He's still sitting there waiting for us. Just sitting there watching all this nonsense play out, being like, I think they forgot about me.
Yes.
Honestly, though. People keep saying that that's what Lightfall feels like. It feels like the Avengers thing, right? Everyone says that. It's like, if Lightfall will be Infinity War, and then Final Shape will be Endgame. Which means if we stick to that logic, we will lose tomorrow badly.
Oh, obviously.
I mean, we've already seen the Witness can just, turn people into, chop suey with a freaking flick of the hand, so that's concerning. He just stares at you. He just glances at you and just disappear.
I'm gone.
He just vexed you and he's just gone. Deleted from the timelines. We will see, though. We will see. I am interested to see what happens. Side note, I still have not gotten my collector's edition. I keep ranting on this week after week, and I still haven't gotten it. I got the email finally shipped. but from what I've seen, it technically hasn't shipped. So, yeah. The feck? Note for next time, order expedited shipping, I suppose.
Give
Anyways.
me my book.
The book! Eesh. It feels bad that I'm getting the, like, game before I get the actual collector's edition for the game. Like, ay. I hope I even be able to get the chance to play the game tomorrow because I don't have the collector's edition. I think I put in a code that actually gave me the expansion, but no, I don't remember. I think I did though, because it registers as pre-ordered in the game. Weirdly enough, not in the PlayStation Store, but in the game itself, which I guess is more important. So I guess that works. We'll see. Anyways, that's all from us. And if there's no closing thoughts from Justin, we'll leave you at what I'm assuming is at least an hour-long video now. Eesh.
Yeah, just an hour now.
There's nothing orthodox about this video. Oh well.
Look at this place.
I wanted to keep this short, but oh well, whatever.
What
Anyways,
can you do?
what can you do? Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Hey, you made it.
Have a good one.
Don't trust the witness.
There is no trust.
If it says anything, don't trust it.
I'll honor him my own way.
It lies.
George always said he would never leave Reach.